The Velkrin science vessel drifted silently through the darkness of space, its hull reflecting the distant light of Sol. Commander Thex stood on the bridge, his 4 eyes scanning the holographic display before him. Earth hung there, blue and green, turning slowly on its axis. It looked peaceful, unremarkable. Just another primitive world to catalog and harvest. "Begin the scan," Thex ordered, his voice carrying the bored tone of someone who had done this 1,000 times before. The ship's sensors hummed to life. Invisible waves of energy washing over Earth like a searchlight piercing fog. Deep within the vessel's computers, data began to flow. Population counts, resource deposits, technological level, threat assessment. All of it recorded, processed, and filed away for the Dominion's harvest fleets. What Thex did not know was that his scan was not as invisible as he believed. In the Australian desert, Dr. Sarah Chen stared at her computer screen, her coffee growing cold in her hand. The radio telescope array had picked up something impossible. A pattern. A signal. No, not a signal. Something sweeping across the entire planet, touching every satellite, every communication system, every device connected to a network. "My God," she whispered. Within minutes, her readings were on the screens of every space agency on Earth. Within an hour, emergency meetings were convened in every capital. Within 3 hours, the impossible truth was accepted by world leaders in bunkers and situation rooms across the globe. Humanity was not alone, and they had just been noticed. Panic spread like wildfire. Cities descended into chaos. Stock markets crashed. People flooded the streets, some praying, others rioting, most simply standing in shock, staring at the sky. Religious leaders proclaimed the end times. Conspiracy theorists felt vindicated. Children cried in their parents' arms. But something else happened too. Something the Velkrin would never have predicted. Humanity began to unite. The President of the United States was on a secure call with the Premier of China, the Chancellor of Germany, and a dozen other world leaders. Ancient enemies spoke with urgent respect. Borders that had caused wars suddenly seemed meaningless. Nuclear arsenals, once pointed at each other, were now useless against a threat from above. "We have one choice," the UN Secretary-General announced to the Emergency Assembly. "We stand together, or we fall separately." The vote was unanimous. The United Earth Coalition was born 72 hours after the scan, the fastest international agreement in human history. Commander Thex was already gone, his ship accelerating toward the edge of the system. His report was simple and routine. Earth was classified as a Level 3 civilization. Primitive, nuclear technology, fractured into competing tribes. Resources, abundant. Resistance, minimal. Recommended action, standard harvest. Expected time to harvest fleet arrival, 18 months. The report was filed, approved, and scheduled. To the Velkrin, it was just another number in a long list of conquered worlds. On Earth, every scientist, engineer, and military expert was summoned to emergency facilities. Underground bunkers became research centers. Military bases transformed into manufacturing hubs. Universities canceled all classes and redirected their brightest minds to a single goal: survival. Dr. Sarah Chen found herself in a facility beneath the Rocky Mountains, surrounded by people she had only seen on television before. Nobel Prize winners, military generals, tech billionaires, all of them working together, stripped of ego, focused only on the task ahead. "We have 18 months, the lead military advisor announced to the assembled crowd. "Maybe less. We need weapons, ships, technology. We're centuries behind them." The room fell silent. The weight of impossibility pressed down on everyone present. Then a young engineer named Marcus Webb stood up. He was nobody famous, just a contractor from NASA who happened to be good with code. His voice shook as he spoke. "We might have something," he said. Dr. Chen's team captured more than just the scan. There was a data burst. A fragment. We think. We think it's from their systems. Every eye in the room turned to him. Show us, someone demanded. On the main screen, lines of alien code appeared. Then, diagrams. Schematics. Star charts. The room erupted in shocked murmurs. They sent us their homework, Doctor, Chen said, a grim smile on her face. When they scanned us, something in their system glitched. A data packet transmitted with the scan wave. It's not complete, but it's enough. A military general leaned forward. Enough for what? Enough to know where they are, she replied. Enough to understand their technology. Enough to know that they're not invincible. The mood in the room shifted. Fear was still there, heavy and cold. But now something else burned alongside it. Something humans had carried since they first picked up rocks to defend their caves. Defiance. Dr. Raymond Foster, a physicist who had spent his career studying theoretical faster-than-light travel, stood next to the screen, his hands trembling as he pointed at the alien equations. This is it, he said. This is what I've been missing. They've solved it. FTL travel. The math is right here. Can we build it? Someone asked. Foster looked at the equations again, then at the faces around him. Tired faces. Scared faces. Determined faces. Give me 6 months and every resource you can spare, he said, and I'll give you a ship that can reach the stars. The room exploded into motion. Teams formed instantly. Resources were allocated. Communication networks were established. Every factory on Earth received new orders. Every mine increased production. The entire species shifted into total war mobilization. In homes across the world, families gathered around televisions as the Secretary General addressed humanity. We will not beg for mercy, she said, her voice steady despite the tears in her eyes. We will not surrender our world. We will not go quietly into extinction. If they want Earth, they will have to take it from us, and we will make them pay for every inch. The broadcast ended. In the silence that followed, something changed in the human spirit. The panic faded. The chaos calmed. People returned to work with a new purpose. Volunteers flooded recruitment centers. Scientists worked around the clock. Engineers pushed past exhaustion. Humanity had been weighed and measured by an alien empire. Now it was time to show them they had made a terrible mistake. 6 months had passed since the scan, and Earth had transformed into something unrecognizable. The planet that once spent trillions on weapons to fight itself now poured every resource into a single purpose: survival against an enemy from the stars. In the Sahara Desert, massive construction vehicles moved across the sand like metal ants. They were building humanity's first orbital defense platform, a structure so large it would be visible from space. Solar panels stretched for miles. Railgun batteries pointed toward the sky. Thousands of workers operated in shifts that never stopped, not even for sandstorms. Beneath the mountains of Switzerland, Dr. Raymond Foster stood in front of what would have been impossible a year ago. The engine hummed with barely contained power, warping the very fabric of space around it. The faster-than-light drive was real. It worked. Foster had tested it 3 times now, sending unmanned probes to the edge of the solar system, and back in minutes instead of years. We've done it, he said to the assembled team, his voice hoarse from exhaustion. We can reach the stars, but reaching the stars was only the first step. In orbit above Earth, the first human warship was taking shape. They called it the Defiance, and it was unlike anything humanity had ever built. 3 kilometers long, built from a hybrid of human and Velcrin technology, it carried weapons that would have seemed like magic a year ago. Plasma cannons, gravity shields, missile systems guided by quantum computers. Commander Alice Zhao floated through the half-finished corridors, her magnetic boots clicking against the metal floor. She had been a naval officer before the scan, commanding a destroyer in the Pacific. Now she was training to command humanity's first starship. The responsibility felt crushing, but she pushed the fear down deep where it couldn't reach her. "Status report," she said into her comm unit. "Hull integrity at 87%, came the reply from the construction chief. "We're ahead of schedule. The FTL drive will be installed within 2 weeks." Zhao allowed herself a small smile. Ahead of schedule. Those words would have been impossible in the old world, where military projects took decades and ran billions over budget. But this was a new world. A world where failure meant extinction. On Earth's surface, massive underground cities had been carved from bedrock. Denver, Beijing, Mumbai, Lagos, Mexico City. Every major population center now had a backup, hidden below ground where orbital bombardment couldn't reach. Billions of people had been relocated, trained in emergency procedures, taught to live in the constant shadow of threat. Children went to school in bunkers. Hospitals operated beneath mountains. Farms were built in massive underground hydroponic facilities, lit by artificial suns. It was a strange new existence, but humans adapted. They always did. In a training facility beneath the Australian outback, Marcus Webb watched as the first class of Terran Vanguard graduated. 2,000 men and women, the best soldiers and pilots from every nation, trained in combat techniques that blended human tactics with knowledge stolen from the Velcrin database. They wore powered armor that enhanced their strength tenfold. They carried weapons that could punch through starship hulls. "You are the tip of the spear," the training instructor barked, his voice echoing in the vast underground chamber. "When we go to meet the enemy, you will be first. You will be fastest. You will be the thing they never expected. Do you understand? Do you understand?" "Yes, sir." The unified shout rattled the walls. Marcus had helped design their equipment. He had watched them train for months, pushing themselves beyond any normal human limit. Some had died in training. Many more had been injured. But none had quit. Not one. Because they understood what was at stake. In a laboratory complex beneath the Himalayas, Dr. Chen worked on something the world leaders had classified above top secret, Project Ragnarok. The name came from ancient Norse mythology, the end of the world. But Chen preferred to think of it as a new beginning. On her screen, simulations played out over and over. Asteroids, hollowed out and fitted with FTL drives, loaded with kinetic penetrators, weapons of unimaginable destructive power. A single one could crack a planet's crust. A dozen could shatter a moon. "It's insane," her colleague said, staring at the numbers. "We're building planet killers." "Drox, they were going to kill our planet," Chen replied coldly. "Turnabout is fair play." The moral weight of it all sat heavy in the room. They were creating weapons of genocide. But what choice did they have? The Velcrin harvested worlds. They had done it thousands of times. Earth would be just another resource node to them. Its people nothing more than obstacles to be removed. Chen saved her work and stood up, her joints aching from too many hours at the computer. Outside the lab's reinforced windows, she could see the mountain peaks, still covered in snow. Beautiful, peaceful, worth fighting for. Across the world, other projects moved forward in secret. Quantum entanglement communication systems that would let human ships coordinate instantly across light years. AI combat systems that could process battlefield data faster than any biological mind. Cyber warfare programs designed to infiltrate and corrupt Velcrin networks. Biological weapons created from the DNA data in the stolen files, tailored to Velcrin physiology. Some scientists protested. Some refused to work on projects they deemed too cruel, too brutal. But most understood the reality. This was total war. The enemy wouldn't show mercy. Neither could humanity. In the United Earth Coalition headquarters, deep beneath Geneva, world leaders met in constant session. They were no longer presidents and premiers and prime ministers. They were a council of war, making decisions that affected the entire species. "The question," said the representative from Japan, "is whether we wait for them to come to us, or if we strike first." 1P10, 1 PT 20 Welf. 1 PT 2020 2020 2020 2020 2020 2020 2020 2020 2020 2020 2020 2020 2020 2020 2020 2020 2020 2020 2020 2020. The room fell silent. It was the question everyone had been avoiding. "We have the location of their nearest outpost," the military commander said, pulling up a star chart. "Kepler, 442. 47 light-years away. Small garrison, maybe 5,000 personnel. If we hit them hard and fast, we could capture their technology, their ships, and gather intelligence on the main fleet." "You're talking about a preemptive attack," someone objected. "We'd be the aggressors. We're already marked for death," another voice countered. "The harvest fleet is coming, whether we like it or not. At least this way, we get intelligence. We get experience. We get their technology." The debate raged for hours. Moral arguments clashed with practical ones. Philosophers and generals shouted across the table. But in the end, the vote was clear. Humanity would strike first. Commander Zhao received the orders while she was inspecting the Defiance's new plasma cannon arrays. Her hands trembled as she read the message. First contact would not be peaceful. It would be violent. Humanity's introduction to the wider galaxy would be written in fire. "Prepare the crew," she said to her second-in-command. "We launch in 3 weeks. Destination?" he asked. "Kepler 442, she replied. "We're going hunting." The news spread through the military networks like lightning. The Terran vanguard prepared to deploy. Ships that had only existed in simulations were rushed to completion. Weapons were loaded. Crews were briefed. Families said goodbye to loved ones who might never return. Dr. Foster made final adjustments to the FTL drive, his hands steady despite the pressure. This was it. Everything humanity had built, everything they had sacrificed, all of it came down to whether his calculations were correct. "Run the final test," he ordered. The drive activated. Space twisted. And the Defiance vanished from Earth's orbit, reappearing at the edge of the solar system 1 second later. It worked. Humanity had wings. The Defiance dropped out of FTL at the edge of the Kepler 442 system, its sensors immediately scanning for threats. Commander Zhao stood on the bridge, her heart pounding despite her training. Around her, the crew worked in focused silence. They had practiced this moment 1,000 times in simulations. Now, it was real. "Target located," the sensor officer reported. "Velcrin outpost, orbiting the 4th planet. Configuration matches the stolen data. I'm reading approximately 40 ships in dock, defensive platforms online, and significant life signs." Zhao studied the holographic display. The outpost was a massive ring structure, spinning slowly to create artificial gravity. It bristled with weapons and sensors. Under normal circumstances, it would be considered impregnable. But circumstances were far from normal. "Deploy the fleet," Zhao ordered. Behind the Defiance, space rippled as 12 more human ships emerged from FTL. Frigates and destroyers, smaller than the flagship, but fast and heavily armed. They formed up in attack formation, a maneuver they had drilled until it became instinct. On the outpost, alarms began to wail. Garrison Commander Vectral was drinking fermented creche when the emergency sirens started. He dropped his cup, the purple liquid splashing across the floor as he rushed to the command center. His security chief was already there, staring at the tactical display with all 4 eyes wide in disbelief. "Unidentified ships," the officer stammered. 13 contacts. FTL signatures. They just appeared at the system's edge. Pirates? Vectral. The manded. Unknown configuration. Technology doesn't match any known species in the database. Vectral felt a cold sensation creep down his spine. Unknown technology. That was impossible. The Velcrin had catalogued every spacefaring species in this sector. Unless. "Send a standard challenge," he ordered. "Demand identification and intent." The communication went out. The human fleet's response was silence. followed by action. The Defiance fired first. Plasma bolts, superheated to temperatures that would make a star jealous, crossed the distance in seconds. They slammed into the outpost's shields, overwhelming them through sheer power. The defensive platforms tried to return fire, but the human ships were already moving, their engines propelling them in patterns no Velcrin computer had predicted. All ships, weapons free, Zhao commanded. Execute attack plan. Delta 7. What followed was not a battle. It was a massacre. Human missiles, guided by AI systems that made split-second adjustments, wove through Velcrin countermeasures like they weren't there. Railgun rounds, accelerated to a fraction of light speed, punched through armor designed to withstand conventional weapons. Cyber warfare packages invaded the outposts' networks, turning their own systems against them. But the most terrifying weapon was something the Velcrin had never encountered before: kamikaze drones. Hundreds of them, each no larger than a human fist, swarmed from the human ships like angry hornets. They were simple things, barely intelligent. But they didn't need to be smart. They just needed to find a target and detonate. And they did. By the thousands. Velcrin ships exploded. Defense platforms went dark. The outpost's hull began to buckle under the assault. "This is impossible," Vectral screamed, watching his forces being destroyed on every screen. "They're supposed to be. Level 3. Level 3. But the humans weren't fighting like a Level 3 civilization. They were fighting like something far more dangerous. A species that had spent its entire existence perfecting the art of killing its own kind. Marcus Webb, now a lieutenant in the Terran Vanguard, felt the impact as his boarding pod slammed into the outpost's hull. Shaped charges blew through the armor, and his squad poured through the breach in their powered armor. The Velcrin guards inside didn't stand a chance. Human weapons, designed for enemies with similar biology, had been modified based on the stolen data. Marcus's rifle fired rounds that fragmented inside Velcrin bodies, causing catastrophic damage. His armor's targeting system highlighted enemies through walls. His squad moved like a well-oiled machine, clearing rooms with brutal efficiency. "Sector 4 secure," he reported over the comm. Moving to the command center. All over the outpost, similar scenes played out. Human boarding teams, overwhelmed. Velcrin defenders, who had never faced an enemy this aggressive, this fast, this ruthless. The Velcrin had thousands of years of military tradition. But humans had learned war in a harder school, fighting each other for scraps of territory on a single world. Vectral found himself backed into his command center, surrounded by his last remaining guards. The doors were sealed, but he could hear the humans outside, cutting through with plasma torches. He activated his personal communicator, sending an emergency message to Dominion Command. "This is Outpost K, 442. We are under attack by unknown hostiles. Species designation unknown. Technology level equivalent to our own or higher. Request immediate reinforcement. They're slaughtering us." The door exploded inward. Human soldiers poured through, weapons raised. Vectral's guards fired, but their shots bounced off the powered armor. Return fire cut them down in seconds. Marcus stepped over the bodies, his rifle pointed at Vectral. The alien commander stood frozen, his breathing rapid, his four eyes darting between the humans. "Down on the ground," Marcus ordered, his voice amplified by his helmet speakers. "Now." Vectral complied, his body shaking. As he lay on the cold metal floor, he felt something he had never experienced in his 300 years of life. Fear. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it was over, the outpost was in human hands. 40 Velcrin ships captured, thousands of prisoners secured, databanks downloaded and transmitted back to Earth, weapons, technology, and supplies seized. Commander Zhao walked through the corridors of the conquered station, her boots echoing in the silence. Bodies lay everywhere, Velcrin and a handful of humans. The air smelled of burned metal and blood. It was the smell of war, and it made her sick, but she pushed the feeling down. There would be time for guilt later, if they survived. In an interrogation room deep in the station, Dr. Chen questioned Vectral. The alien commander sat across from her. His pride broken, his spirit shattered. He answered every question mechanically, defeated. "The Harvest Fleet," Chen asked. "Where is it? When will it reach Earth?" "Already en route," Vectral replied. 300 ships. They left 2 months ago. You cannot stop them. "We'll see about that," Chen said coldly. "What else is out there? What other threats should we know about?" Vectral laughed then, a bitter, broken sound. "You think the Dominion is your only problem?" He wheezed. "You have no idea what you've done. You've announced yourselves to the galaxy. You've proven you're dangerous. The Dominion will come for you with everything. But even if you somehow beat us, others will come. The Krelthar Swarm, the Machine Collective, the Elder Races who watch from the dark. You think you're strong? You're infants, playing with weapons you don't understand." He leaned forward, his eyes meeting Chen's. "You should have hidden," he said quietly. "And they're all wondering if you're a threat. Congratulations, humans. You just painted a target on your entire species." Chen felt ice in her veins. She stood up and left the room without another word. Outside, Marcus was waiting for her. "What did he say?" Marcus asked. Chen looked at him, seeing the young man who had helped start all of this with his discovery of the data burst. He looked older now. Harder. They all did. "He said we've made a terrible mistake," she replied. "He said there are worse things out there than the Velkrin." "Do you believe him?" Chen thought about it for a long moment. "Yes," she finally said. "But it doesn't matter. We can't unhit them. We can only move forward." Above them, in the captured command center, Commander Zhao received confirmation that all human casualties had been recovered and all useful intelligence had been extracted. The operation was complete. Humanity's first strike against the aliens had succeeded beyond all expectations. She activated the ship-wide comm. "All personnel, prepare for departure. We're going home." As the human fleet began to withdraw, Vectral's emergency message reached Dominion Command. 47 light-years away. When they listened to it, when they saw the footage from the outpost's cameras, panic spread through the halls of power. An emergency session was called. The High Council convened for the first time in 50 years, and humanity's name was spoken in the chambers of alien power for the first time, not as prey, as predators. Fleet Admiral Krexith had commanded the Harvest Fleet for 200 years. He had overseen the consumption of 47 worlds, the relocation of billions of beings to labor camps, and the extraction of resources worth more than most civilizations could calculate. He had never failed. He had never even been challenged. That was about to change. His fleet of 300 ships emerged from FTL at the edge of Earth's solar system in perfect formation. It was a display of power meant to terrify, to overwhelm, to make resistance seem futile. The Harvest Fleet was invincible. Or so Krexith believed. "Begin scans," he ordered. "I want full planetary assessment within the hour." His sensor officer worked in silence for several minutes, then froze. "Admiral," the officer said, his voice uncertain, "I'm detecting anomalies." "Explain," Krexith demanded. "The planet is fortified. Extensively. I'm reading weapons platforms in orbit, energy signatures that match military-grade shielding, and..." The officer trailed off, his eyes widening. "Sir, I'm detecting multiple fleet signatures. Hundreds of ships. They're waiting for us." Krexith felt something he hadn't experienced in decades. Doubt. Impossible. Our intelligence rated this world as level 3. They shouldn't have weapons platforms. They shouldn't even have orbital capability worthy of the name. "Sir, I'm also detecting debris. A lot of it. Velkrin debris. There are pieces of our ships scattered throughout the system." Before Krexith could respond, his communication station erupted with activity. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission. Origin, Earth. It's directed at us. Play it," Krexith ordered. The face that appeared on the screen was human. Female, with dark skin and eyes that held no fear. Commander Zhao spoke clearly, her words translated automatically by the Velcrin systems. "This is Commander Alice Zhao of the United Earth Coalition Defense Fleet. You have entered our system with hostile intent. You have designated our world for harvest. We reject your claim. We deny your authority. Turn back now, or we will destroy you." The transmission ended. For a moment, Krexith's command center was silent. Then someone laughed. Then others joined in. The idea of a primitive world threatening the Dominion's harvest fleet was absurd. Krexith did not laugh. He was staring at the sensor data, at the debris fields, at the fortifications. Something was very wrong. "Battle stations," he ordered. "All ships. Combat formation. Prepare for engagement." The harvest fleet advanced toward Earth, confident in their superior numbers and technology. What they didn't know was that humanity had spent the last 18 months preparing for exactly this moment. When the Velcrin fleet crossed the orbit of Mars, Earth's defenses activated. The first wave was orbital platforms, dozens of them, hidden among the satellites and debris that orbited Earth. They fired railgun rounds that crossed the distance in seconds, punching through Velcrin shields that had never been designed to stop kinetic weapons traveling at such speeds. 3 Velcrin ships exploded before they could return fire. The second wave was the Defiance and her sister ships, humanity's fleet of 70 warships emerging from behind the moon where they had been hiding. They hit the Velcrin formation from the side, their weapons firing in coordinated volleys that had been practiced 1,000 times. Plasma met shields, missiles found hulls, laser batteries carved through armor. "All ships, break formation," Krexith screamed. But the human ships weren't fighting like any enemy the Velcrin had faced before. They moved in 3 dimensions, using gravity wells and orbital mechanics to slingshot around planets and moons. They coordinated their attacks with split-second precision, focusing fire to overwhelm individual targets before moving on to the next. And then, humanity unveiled its secret weapon. From the asteroid belt, they came. Rocks, hollowed out and fitted with FTL drives, loaded with kinetic penetrators. Project Ragnarok. Activated at last. They appeared among the Velcrin fleet, with barely any warning, moving at relativistic speeds. The first one hit a Velcrin battleship amidships. The impact released energy equivalent to a nuclear weapon. The ship simply ceased to exist, vaporized in an instant. Its neighbors were caught in the blast wave, their hulls buckling, their systems failing. "Evasive maneuvers," Krexith roared, but it was too late. More asteroids appeared. FTL jumps calculated to perfection. They didn't need to be accurate. At the speeds they were moving, proximity was enough. Each impact was a small apocalypse. Each detonation removed multiple ships from the battle. The Velcrin fleet, which had entered the system in perfect formation, descended into chaos. Commander Zhao watched from the Defiance's bridge as the battle unfolded. Around her, the crew worked with mechanical efficiency, following battle plans they had drilled until they became reflexive. But she could see the tension in their faces, the fear they were all suppressing. "Target the flagship," she ordered. "All weapons, concentrated fire." The Defiance's plasma cannons spoke as one. Admiral Krexith's command ship shuddered under the impact, its shields flaring and failing. Secondary explosions rippled across its hull. Krexith was thrown from his command chair, alarms screaming throughout his ship. "Shields down," someone shouted. "Hull breaches on decks 4 through 12. We're venting atmosphere." Krexith pulled himself up, blood streaming from a cut on his head. This couldn't be happening. They were the Velcrin Dominion. They were unstoppable. "All ships, concentrate fire on the human flagship," he ordered. "Bring it down." Dozens of Velcrin ships turned their weapons toward the Defiance. Energy beams and missiles converged on Zhao's position. Her ship's shields absorbed what they could. But it wasn't enough. Explosions tore through the Defiance's hull. People died at their stations, sucked into space or burned alive. Hull breach on Deck 7. The damage control officer reported. We've lost main power. To forward weapons. Zhao gripped her command chair, feeling the ship shudder beneath her. All power to engines, she ordered. Get us out of their firing arc. But she didn't need to. Because at that moment, the rest of humanity's fleet arrived. From Earth, from the Moon, from hidden positions throughout the solar system, human ships converged on the Velcrin formation. They swarmed like piranhas, each ship small but deadly, their combined firepower overwhelming. The battle raged for 3 days. 3 days of constant fighting, of ships exploding and crews dying, of humanity and the Velcrin locked in brutal combat above the world that had given birth to humans. Marcus Webb, now commanding a boarding team, led his Terran Vanguard soldiers onto a crippled Velcrin cruiser. They moved through corridors filled with smoke and bodies, securing sections one by one. The Velcrin fought desperately, but they were losing. Everywhere, they were losing. On the 3rd day, Admiral Krexith sat in his ruined command center, surrounded by the bodies of his crew. His fleet was shattered. Of 300 ships, fewer than 50 remained operational. The rest were debris, drifting through space with their dead crews. Sir, his communication officer said weakly, we're receiving a transmission. It's the humans. They're offering terms. Krexith wanted to refuse. He wanted to fight to the last ship, the last crew member, the last breath. But he was a military commander, not a fanatic. He had a responsibility to the soldiers under his command. Accept the transmission, he said. Commander Zhao's face appeared on the screen again. She looked tired, her uniform torn, blood on her face. But her eyes were steady. Admiral, she said, you have lost. Surrender your remaining ships, and your crews will be treated as prisoners of war. Continue fighting, and we will destroy every last one of you. Krexith looked at the sensor display, looked at his shattered fleet, looked at the human ships, damaged but still operational, still dangerous. He had been a fool. They all had been fools, thinking this world was just another harvest. I accept your terms, he said, the words tasting like ashes in his mouth. The surrender was transmitted fleet-wide. Velcrin ships powered down their weapons. Human boarding teams secured them one by one. The battle for Earth was over. But as Zhao stood on her damaged bridge, receiving casualty reports and damage assessments, she felt no joy. They had won. Yes, they had survived. But at what cost? 50,000 humans dead. A dozen ships destroyed. Orbital platforms ruined. And somewhere in deep space, the Velcrin Dominion was receiving word of their defeat. Ma'am, her tactical officer said quietly. Long-range sensors are detecting movement. Multiple contacts. Different signatures. They're not Velcrin. Zhao closed her eyes. Vectral's words came back to her. You've announced yourselves to the galaxy. I see them, she said. Flag them for analysis and keep monitoring. This war isn't over. On Earth, celebrations erupted in the streets. Humanity had defeated an alien invasion. They had proven they could stand against the stars. But in the underground command centers, in the strategy rooms where leaders made decisions, the mood was different. They had won a battle, but a larger war was coming. The United Earth Coalition convened an emergency session. We cannot stop now, the military commander argued. The Velcrin will regroup. They'll come back with more ships, more weapons. We need to take the fight to them. Strike their colonies, liberate their subjects, keep them off balance. You're talking about becoming conquerors ourselves, someone objected. I'm talking about survival, came the reply. We didn't start this war, but we're damn well going to finish it. The vote was close. But the decision was made. Humanity would go on the offensive. Above Earth, the captured Velcrin ships were being refitted with human technology. The Terran fleet was being expanded. Soldiers were training for campaigns light years from home, and in the darkness between stars, other civilizations watched and wondered. The humans had arrived, and the galaxy would never be the same. 6 months had passed since the Battle of Terra, and the galaxy was a different place. Humanity had kept its word. They had taken the war to the Velcrin Dominion, and they had not stopped. Commander Zhao stood on the bridge of the Defiance, now repaired and upgraded with captured Velcrin technology. Through the view screen, she could see the planet below. It had once been called Velcrin Colony 47. Now the freed slaves who lived there called it Liberation. It was the 12th world humanity had freed. Status report, Zhao said, her voice carrying the weariness of 6 months of constant warfare. All Velcrin military forces have surrendered, her tactical officer replied. The local resistance is taking control of the government buildings. They're requesting permission to execute the Velcrin administrators. Zhao felt the weight of that request settle on her shoulders. She had felt that weight 12 times now. Each time, it got heavier. Tell them no, she said firmly. The administrators will be tried for their crimes. No executions without due process. They won't like that answer, ma'am. I don't care. We didn't come here to trade one group of murderers for another. But even as she said it, Zhao wondered if she was being naive. The Velcrin had enslaved these people for generations. They had every right to want revenge. Who was she, to deny them that? In the United Earth Coalition headquarters, the mood was complex. On one wall, a massive display showed the current state of the war. Green markers indicated liberated worlds. Red markers showed Velcrin territories. The green was spreading, but so was something else. We're losing ourselves, Dr. Chen said to the assembled council. She looked older now, her hair showing more gray, her eyes carrying shadows. We set out to defend Earth. Now we're conducting offensive campaigns across a dozen star systems. We're occupying alien worlds. We're making decisions about who governs entire civilizations. We're freeing slaves, the military commander countered. We're stopping a genocidal empire from harvesting more innocent worlds. Are we? Chen challenged. Or are we building our own empire and telling ourselves it's different? The room fell silent. It was the question everyone had been avoiding. Whither fallows, tended, everment, everment. Whither fallows, everment, everment. Whither 5, everment, evermented, evermented, evermented. Marcus Webb, now a decorated captain, sat in a transport ship heading back to Earth. Around him were the soldiers of his unit, those who had survived 6 months of combat. They didn't talk much anymore. They had seen too much, done too much. He thought about the Velcrin soldiers they had killed. Thousands of them. At first, it had been easy to see them as monsters. But then, he had seen their faces, seen them afraid, seen them die. They were people too, following orders, believing they were serving a greater purpose, just like humans did. Cap, one of his soldiers said quietly. Was it worth it? Marcus didn't have an answer. He had freed worlds and killed enemies, and watched friends die in his arms. Was it worth it? He honestly didn't know anymore. On Earth, the celebrations had faded. Now came the harder part, dealing with the reality of what they had become. Hundreds of thousands of Velcrin prisoners sat in camps, waiting for trials that might never come. Millions of freed aliens had requested asylum on Earth. Overwhelming already strained resources. The economy was entirely focused on war production, and the casualties kept coming. Every week, more transport ships arrived carrying the dead. They were buried in massive cemeteries that seemed to grow endlessly. Each grave was a reminder of the cost of survival. In a hospital in New Denver, underground where it was safe from orbital bombardment, Nurses cared for soldiers who would never fully heal. Burns from plasma weapons. Radiation exposure from damaged ship cores. Psychological trauma that no medicine could cure. One nurse, a woman named Sarah, sat beside a young pilot who had been pulled from a destroyed fighter. He stared at the ceiling, unblinking, reliving the moment his ship had exploded over and over. "We won, didn't we?" he whispered. "Why doesn't it feel like winning?" Sarah had no answer for him. Deep in space, aboard the human battleship, Indomitable, Commander Zhao received a communication that changed everything. Her face paled as she read it. "Ma'am?" her second-in-command asked, concerned. "We've been contacted," Zhao said quietly. "Not by the Velcrin. By something else." The message was simple, translated into human languages with perfect accuracy. It claimed to be from something called the Elder Collective, a group of ancient civilizations that had been watching the galaxy for millions of years. They were not pleased with humanity's actions. The message was forwarded to Earth. Within hours, the United Earth Coalition convened in emergency session. On their screens, the Elder Collective's ambassador appeared. It was humanoid but wrong in subtle ways. Too perfect. Too still. Its voice was calm, almost bored. "You are the species called humanity," it stated. "You have been noticed. Your actions against the Velcrin Dominion have destabilized this sector. Your technology has advanced too quickly. Your methods are too brutal. We are offering you two choices." The council listened in silence. First choice. You submit to the authority of the Elder Collective. You will be granted protectorate status. Your military will be disbanded. Your FTL capability will be restricted. You will be isolated to your home system until we deem you ready to join the galactic community. "And the second choice?" the Secretary General asked. "The second choice is quarantine. We will surround your system with a blockade. Nothing leaves. Nothing enters. You will be contained until such time as you are no longer a threat." "And if we refuse both?" someone demanded. The Elder Collective's ambassador tilted its head slightly, the first movement it had made. "Then we will remove the threat permanently. We have done so before. We will do so again, if necessary." The transmission ended. The council chamber erupted in argument. Some wanted to accept the protectorate status, seeing it as a path to peace. Others saw it as another form of slavery, trading Velcrin chains for Elder Collective restrictions. Still others wanted to fight, to refuse to bow to yet another alien power that thought it could dictate humanity's future. "We need more time to decide," someone said. "We don't have time," the military commander replied. "They've probably already positioned their forces." Dr. Chen stood up, her voice cutting through the chaos. "We need to think about what we've become," she said. 6 months ago, we were fighting for survival. Now we're conducting offensive campaigns. We're occupying worlds. We're making demands of alien civilizations. The Elder Collective isn't wrong to be concerned about us. "So, we should just surrender?" someone shouted. "I'm saying we should remember why we fought in the first place," Chen replied. "We fought for freedom, for the right to exist, for self-determination, not to build an empire, not to become what we fought against." The debate raged for hours. Finally, a decision was reached. Not unanimous, but sufficient. Humanity would refuse both options. The response was crafted carefully, sent to the Elder Collective with full knowledge of what it might mean. "We are humanity," the message read. "We did not choose this war. We did not ask to be noticed. We did not want to become conquerors. But we will not surrender our freedom. We will not accept restrictions on our development. We will not be caged like animals, because you fear what we might become. We offer a third option: independence. We will defend our territory and those who ask for our protection. We will not expand beyond reasonable limits. We will engage with the galactic community as equals, not as subjects or prisoners. If you cannot accept this, then we will fight. Not because we want to, but because we must. You call us dangerous. Perhaps we are. But we are also learning. We are also capable of change. Give us that chance. Or force us to become the monsters you fear. The message was sent. Then, humanity waited. Commander Zhao stood in front of a memorial wall aboard the Defiance. On it were inscribed the names of every crew member who had died in the 6 months of war. There were too many names. Far too many. Behind her, Dr. Chen approached quietly. "Do you think we made the right choice?" Zhao asked without turning. "I think we made the only choice we could, and still remain human," Chen replied. "The Velcrin commander was right," Zhao said. "We've painted a target on ourselves. The Elder Collective is just the first. Others will come. Then we'll face them," Chen said. "Together. As we always have." On Earth, people gathered in the streets again. But this time, there were no celebrations. Instead, there was something else. Determination. Solidarity. The knowledge that harder times were coming, but they would face them as one species, one people. In homes across the world, families held each other close. Parents looked at their children and wondered what kind of future they had secured. Was it freedom? Or was it an endless cycle of war? The answer came 3 days later. The Elder Collective's ambassador appeared again, but this time its tone was different. Less certain. Almost. Respectful. "Your response has been noted," it said. "The Elder Collective has deliberated. We have decided to accept your proposal of independence. With conditions. We will establish a neutral zone between your territory and established galactic regions. You will be monitored, but not restricted. Your actions will be judged. But you will be given the chance to prove yourselves. This is unprecedented. Do not make us regret it." The transmission ended. The United Earth Coalition sat in stunned silence. They had gambled everything on a bluff, and somehow, it had worked. "Why?" someone whispered. "Why did they back down?" Dr. Chen thought she knew the answer. The Elder Collective had been watching. They had seen what humans did when cornered. They had seen the Battle of Terra, the liberation campaigns, the stubborn refusal to accept defeat. And they had realized something important. Humanity was dangerous, yes, but trying to cage them might be even more dangerous. Months passed. The war with the Velcrin ended not with a grand battle but with negotiations. A peace treaty was signed. Reparations were agreed upon. Borders were established. The Dominion would continue to exist, but diminished, restricted, watched. The liberated worlds formed their own federation, with human advisors but not human rulers. It was imperfect, messy, complicated, but it was theirs. Commander Zhao retired from military service. She had fought for long enough. She went home to Earth, to the surface cities that were being rebuilt, and tried to remember what peace felt like. Marcus Webb did the same, though nightmares followed him. He started a foundation to help other veterans cope with what they had experienced. It helped. A little. Dr. Chen continued her work, but now it was focused on diplomacy instead of weapons. She became Earth's first ambassador to the galactic community, representing humanity with wisdom earned through hard experience. On Earth, at the site where the first alien scan had been detected, they built a memorial. It was simple. A black stone wall with an inscription in every human language. They came to measure us for chains. We taught them the weight of freedom. May we never forget what we fought for, or what we became in that fight. A young girl stood in front of it with her grandmother, a veteran of the Battle of Terra. The child's voice was small, in the vast space. "Grandma, what does it mean?" The old woman knelt down, her joints aching from old injuries that never quite healed. She looked at her granddaughter's innocent face and thought about how to answer. "It means we survived, little one," she said finally. "And now we have to decide what kind of people we want to be. We have the power to destroy. We've proven that. But the real question is whether we have the wisdom to build." "Can we?" the girl asked. "Can we be good?" The grandmother smiled, sad but genuine. "I don't know," she admitted. "But we have to try. That's all anyone can do. Try to be better than we were yesterday." She stood up and took her granddaughter's hand, leading her away from the memorial. Behind them, the inscription remained, a permanent reminder of the day one scan changed everything. The galaxy watched humanity now. Some with fear, some with hope, most with uncertainty about what this strange, violent, adaptable species would do next. But humanity watched the stars back, no longer with wonder alone, but with knowledge. They were not alone. They were not the strongest. But they were free, and they would fight to stay that way. The story of humanity among the stars had only just begun.